Good afternoon and welcome to Business Solution Partners' first NetSuite Masterclass. We've had a really overwhelming response from the NetSuite community, and today we're expecting over 200 participants on our live presentation. Our Masterclass series is the newest addition to our ongoing webinar calendar. Stay tuned. At the end of our session, we will announce the date and topic of our next Masterclass, and if you find value today, we sincerely hope you join us again. Today, we're talking about saved searches, a core functionality of NetSuite's Unified Business Management Suite. With saved searches, you can ensure that your company is generating timely, accurate, and mission-critical reports for the vital job roles that you have in your organization and the management oversight of your company. Before we jump in, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce your webinar team and go over some housekeeping notes. This webinar is brought to you by Business Solution Partners. BSP has a 30-year history of providing high-level financial and operational consulting and technology-based solutions to mid-market and enterprise companies in all 50 states. We are a 5-star Oracle NetSuite solution provider partner, an Adaptive Insights Gold partner, a HubSpot Gold partner, and took home the coveted AvidXchange Partner of the Year award in 2019. In addition to these accolades, we hold certifications with many other SaaS solutions to help companies achieve process transformation in finance, sales, operations, marketing, and much more. We represent a wide variety of software and process solutions supported by training to ensure that your company succeeds in the modern business environment. And we really love sharing educational and informative content with our growing audience. I personally encourage you today to check out our YouTube channel and LinkedIn page. Be sure to like and subscribe to receive regular updates, including access to white papers, webinars, blog posts, and much more. We've made it really easy by providing you with some custom links. Just type in www.bspny.com/YouTube or /LinkedIn, and you can be taken directly to our social pages. My name is Craig Cook. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Business Solution Partners. Our thought leader today is Business Solution Partners Chief Solutions Architect, Hussain Zaidi. And the woman behind the scenes making all of this possible is our webinar coordinator and NetSuite account manager, Michelle Cronley. On behalf of the entire team assembled here today, I'd like to welcome you to our educational webinar. I'd like to shout out to the over 60 accountants who registered for our call today. Business Solution Partners is extremely proud to have expanded our capabilities to offer CPE credits and has been approved by the NASBA for group web-based training. To comply with the NASBA's rules for credit delivery, we will have several other polling questions interdispersed throughout today's presentation. If you are a CPA, please be sure to vote in these polls and watch attentively for the entire presentation to be eligible to receive your course certificate. And please note, CPE credits are only offered during our live broadcasts. You cannot earn CPE credits by viewing our recorded webinars, though we still encourage you to do so. All right, we are ready to get started. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce your intrepid guide for today's journey, Business Solution Partners Chief Solutions Architect, Hussain Zaidi. Hussain advises our clients on technology, solution design, and process optimization. He has been working with ERP systems for over 20 years and has amassed a wealth of knowledge that goes well beyond any single platform. You may recognize Hussain from your local NetSuite user group, where he is a regular presenter on topics like finance transformation and his ever-popular NetSuite tips and tricks sessions. Hussain, I think our audience is ready to dive into the topic of the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Hussain Zaidi.
Hi, everyone. I'm hoping you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Today's session would be a little bit different than tips and tricks and other educational session we have done in the past. This is presented as a master class and more like on hands type of training. So if you guys are in front of your computers and have your NetSuite available, you can feel free to log into NetSuite and follow along as I go through the different features and capabilities available in NetSuite Safe Searches. The agenda for today includes the following. So we're going to start with a very short comparison between Safe Searches and reports. What are the differences when you would use one versus the other? Then we have 3 safe searches that we're going to create in, the next 40, 50 minutes, the time we have for this session. Creating the safe searches would include setting up the criteria, selecting the results, group and formulas, how you define them, setting up row highlighting, and filters. We also talk about related fields and adding related fields, and then saving and viewing option. Okay, so let's get started. Now, in terms of reports within NetSuite, reports are what we call more polished presentation option. So it's a point-in-time analysis. You can have hierarchical grouping within the reports, which is not available in searches. Although in searches, you can have summary and detail view. And actually, we have an example today that I'm going to go over with summary and detail view so you guys can see what that looks like. Reports also have that, but in addition, reports are hierarchical grouping, like a tree-based grouping, which is not available on safe searches. Tree-based grouping is also not available on the Suite Analytic Workbooks, which is the new analytics and presentation tool that NetSuite has introduced in the past year. Now with reports, you can have totals and subtotals very easily, and they can include calculated fields and dimensions that are not available in searches. Now searches, on the other hand, you guys have to understand that it's a window into the NetSuite database. NetSuite is a cloud-based system, so you don't have direct access to the database. The way you get access to your different tables and entities and data sitting in the database is through these safe searches. So they get you, dynamic results. They're somewhat easier to navigate. Formulas are more easy to set up in searches than the reports, and they have highlighting capabilities. You can easily add them to dashboards as well, and exporting capabilities that are available as a tabulated result set that you can get out of the safe search. Okay. So let's start with our first safe search. Very simple safe search. What we have is a criteria where a sales manager is requiring a list of customers for all the Western US states. So any customer that has an address in a Western region should be included in the safe search. Okay, and we need to include the state and zip code in the results, and include sales rep as one of the filters. Okay, so let's get into NetSuite. Now within NetSuite, the search could be created in multiple different ways. And you can actually, I can start with, customer's view, for example. And the customer's view, again, if you have used NetSuite for a while, is using safe search in the background. So all of these different views are built on safe searches, okay? And when you customize the view, it actually is gonna take you to the safe search builder or search screen where you can set up the options. Now, by default, you only see the results. You can see these are all the result columns for the safe search and the filters that are available for that view. But if you want to customize the criteria or modify more options, you have to click more options. And then it takes you and gives you the full safe search set of options. So you have your criteria, you have your results, you have highlighting, available filters, audience, roles, and other options. So this is one way of doing it. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can start with an existing view and modify it and create a new save search. What I'm going to do is start with a new one. So let's start with a new search. And in this case, so we are going to start with a customer. So the first thing you have to set within the search is the search record type. So the search record type, and actually I have it on my next screen. The search record type defines what's the master record type that the search is going to run against, and then what related entities could be used within that search. So I'm going to put customer as my master search record type. And if you guys recall, our criteria was to include all the customers for Western region. And the easiest way to do that is if I can narrow it down by address. So for the address state, I have to go to the related field. Now, if you guys see, all of these fields are sitting directly on the customer. Now, customer has other related records, and that's why those records are available down below. So I can come here, go to address field, and then once I select that, it gives me additional fields options. And this is where I can come in and select state or province. And in this case, I can come here and let me just quickly pick 2 of these and set. Okay, so that's my criteria. I am including my, California customers and Colorado customers. Now for the results. For the results, I can choose to include, these are some of the default fields that gets included. I can remove the ones I don't want. I can include the address, state, and zip. So I can get that off the address fields. And also the zip. And one more. Let's see if you can include the sales rep. And I can also move this to the maybe the more left-hand side of the columns. So I'm gonna put it right after the name. Okay, and then hit submit. So this gives me all of my customers in California and Colorado. Okay. And the columns I have are the ones I selected. So the customer name, the sales rep, phone, primary contact, state, and zip. And that's what I also have defined here in my slide. So I have a greater list of states. And on the results, it's pretty much what I have set there. Now the full version of this search is right here, but before I go there, let me also tell you guys that up till now, what we have created so far is a search that's running and getting you the dynamic results, but it's not saved yet. To save the search, you have to click this button, Save This Search. And then it brings you to a full search options, which initially, if you notice, were only limited to criteria and results. So now I can see highlight, filters, audience roles, emails, etc. Okay. So let's see. Do we have any questions so far?
So Hussein, we got a question. Why aren't the fields listed in alphabetical order?
Actually, if you take a look, the fields here are in alphabetical order, right? You see all these fields sitting on the customer are in alphabetical order.
Mhm.
But after you are done with the primary fields that are sitting right on the table, then you start looking at the related fields, fields that are sitting on related tables. And those fields are then, they start its own alphabetical sequence. So you can see activity, address, billing address, call fields, and so on. And when you open up any of those fields, actually those also show up in the alphabetical order. Okay,
Excellent, thank you.
good. So a couple of points about personalizing or saving a search. First of all, on the title, make sure you give it a title that is easy to remember and tells you what the Save Search is doing. Also very important is the ID. Try to have a naming convention for the ID. If you have a naming convention, it would be easy to find those searches within the search list. Okay. And then a couple of options down here, making it public, meaning everybody would have access to it. If you don't want to make it public, you have to make sure you have the correct roles included. Okay, so you can see you can give different roles access to your Save Search, whether it's in a list, form, or dashboard, or sublist. Available as a list view makes the search available for the master record, search record type that we initially selected. So let me make that point clear. So remember, we came to relationships and we looked at customers, and customers had a list view. If you want this search to be available in the customer list view right here, you have to make sure you check this box. Okay, the searches could also be made available on the dashboard. So for that, you have to check this box. They could be also made available as a sublist view on another form. Could be available for reminder and could show up in a menu, which menu shows up right here. So if you go to reports, save searches, this is where it's going to show up if you have that checkbox. If you don't have that checkbox marked, that save search is still there, but you have to go to all save searches to access that.
All right, Hussein, I'm going to pause you for just a second here. A couple of related questions to kind of exactly where you are right now.
Right.
First one that came in is, can you distinguish between the related fields versus the primary fields? And what's the difference? I.e., if you use the zip code on the primary field versus the related field, would you get the same results?
You would, if it's the same related field. Keep in mind, it's the address, for example, is saved in a separate table. Okay, so some of these fields are carried over. So that's a very good question in the sense that actually we could do this right here. If you come here and you see that some of the address fields are here repeated, and we also have address entity that we can pick the fields from. So I can, for example, come down here and I can include zip code and add it. So now I have two zip codes. I have the zip code coming from the address and the zip code directly sitting on the customer. Now what NetSuite does is that it copies some of that data from the address table onto the customer master so it's readily available. Okay, now I'm going to give this a name as well. So before I run this, I want to make sure I give it a custom ID so that it's easy to remember for me. So if, let's say, if I'm running a NetSuite Masterclass, so I'm going to call it NSMC, and then give it an ID which has, you know, part of the name or the search title in it. So I can say customers. And customer search. Let's save and run. So you can see the zip code is exactly the same. That's because NetSuite, for the address, it made it convenient for you guys to have the address available both on the customer entity, on the primary set of fields, as well as on the address table. Okay. So that's why you have address fields and the same fields repeating on the customer, but it's not true for others entity fields or other related fields. So let's talk about some of them. Since you guys asked the question, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. So I have all these fields available. These fields are primary fields that are sitting directly on the customer table. Okay. Once I go towards the bottom, I have the related fields. Now, related fields are sitting or coming from another table, and you can join just with the customer to get to the fields available for that customer. Okay, so for example, if you have multiple contacts on the customer, if I include the fields from the contact record, it's going to go and bring all the contacts for me. So if the customer has 5 contacts, now I'm going to be getting 5 results in my Safe Search. Okay, so when you take a related field and add it to your result set, it automatically tells NetSuite to do a join between your primary record type and your related record type. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
I don't believe we have any further questions on that specifically. So we did answer the zip question. Why did zip appear twice? Another question related to this is a quick one. Let's do a quick one here. What is the difference between the ID and the search title?
So ID is the internal ID for the Safe Search, and the search title is the more readable name that you give it to a search. You could call it as a description, but it's limited in how many characters you can have on there. But still, it's a well-defined name that you can use to look up your search. And let me actually show you guys what it would look like. So if I go to report Safe Searches and I go to all Safe Searches, you guys can see on the search list, I have an ID, which is the unique ID for the Safe Search, and the actual title. If you don't assign an ID to the Safe Search, the system is going to assign the ID. NetSuite is going to assign an ID automatically, and which would look something like this. So custom search and a number or a numeral following it. I don't recommend this because then it's hard to find. You guys won't be able to. The only way you can find the Safe Search is going through the title, and sometimes it's not that easy. Okay. So, other questions?
I'm going to ask one more question here, and then we're going to take a pause on questions and let you move forward a little bit. We're going to get back to these questions at the end of the webinar, or if we don't answer them live during the webinar today, we're going to make sure we get back in touch with you after the webinar to answer these questions. But Janine was very patient, and she asked, is there a way to remove multiple fields at one time?
Multiple fields from the result set at one time. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Unfortunately not. You could do removal and just add whatever you want on there. But at this point, yeah, it's either you can go one by one and remove, click on remove, or do remove all and then add the ones you want. Okay. So let's continue. So we talked about setting up the result set, result columns, and clicking submit and viewing the results. Then personalizing or creating a Safe Search, adding a search title, setting up the Safe Search ID, different checkboxes that are available to you. on that. Now let's talk about defining the filters. So let's get back into NetSuite. Now actually I have the completed search here. So I'm going to come and edit this so I can show you guys. So once you're in the Save Search Builder, come to Available Filters subtab. And in here, you can define all the filters that you want to expose for the end user, in addition to whatever criteria you have included in your Save Search. So in here, I have selected sales rep. Out of all the columns, I picked a sales rep. And then I also checked this checkbox, show in filter region. You can also, if you want multiple sales rep to be selected at one time, you can also say show as multi-select, and it'll help you do that. And you can actually have multiple sales rep and select, and we can do that in this case as well. Click OK, and now save and run. So as you can see here, I have all of these sales reps that are showing up. So I can say, maybe I want to include Tom Carter and maybe Kev Hoffman. There's nothing for Kev Hoffman. Edward. Yeah, okay. So the way I'm doing this is I'm holding my control key and I'm selecting which other sales rep I want to include, and those get included in my result set. Okay, so that's how I'm able to define these filters. And you can include as many filters as you want. They just show up in this filter region. Okay, next from filters is highlighting. And actually I wanted to have a little fun here. So I created a highlight condition. So if the zip code is even, my row gets highlighted. If the zip code is odd, the highlight does not happen. So let's see how that formula is built up. Now I go to highlighting, and in here, first thing you want to do is in the condition, come here and click on this little icon that brings up the formula builder. In the formula builder, what I did is instead of picking a field to, to set my highlighting, I used a formula. So with formula, you have three options. You can have a formula based on date, a numerical value, or a text. So I picked a I picked a numeric formula, and that formula looks something like this. So I'm using a mod, which is also, it's a remainder. It is going to divide my value by whatever number I want and return the remainder. So first thing I'm doing is taking an address zip code, okay, which is a numeric value, and I'm converting it to a number, because address zip code in NetSuite is stored as text. So I need to convert to a number. And then I'm taking a remainder with 2. And if that value equals to 0, then it's an even number, right? And that's what I want the highlighting to happen. Now, to build these type of formulas, you have all the functions that are available in this drop-down list. So you can add a function directly from here. So if you add a function, for example, toNumber, it adds it with the help and options included. So you would need to replace these with the actual values, okay? So otherwise, you're going to get syntax errors. The fields are also available. So if you want to include a field, you just click on the field, and it actually adds the database name for the field in curly brackets, or internal name for the fields in curly brackets, okay? Now, also another thing I'm going to point out is this is a field coming from a related table. So that's why you have address table, dot, and then zip code. Okay. So that's my formula. And that's what I have said for highlighting. So you can use an image for highlighting as an icon. You can change the text color. In this case, I'm just changing the background color to yellow. You can also make it bold and provide description. That description comes up as a tooltip. So I'm going to save and run this. And here are my results with the highlighting only for zip codes that are even. Okay.
All right, Hussein, we're at the halfway mark now, and I just want to do a lightning round of questions for you from the Q&A panel.
Okay.
I'm going to start at the top from an anonymous attendee. I've seen duplicate field names not in connected tables when building searches. Why does this occur, and what is the difference between them?
Yeah, very good question. So duplicate field names is a problem because different fields could have same names. They might be sitting on different tables, right? So if they are on related tables, fields named or names that are the same but are they're on different tables, you are going to see them as separate columns on your result set. Now, if you're asking the duplicate fields appearing on the same table, no related tables, I highly doubt that, but I would need to look at your Save Search and look at the Results tab and see which fields are included. Okay. Sometimes you can actually set up, not sometimes, but you can set up custom labels for your fields. So if you go and change the label to a name that's already existing in the database, it's going to create a problem. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I can easily demonstrate it here. I can come to my result set, and let's say I give my address a new label called name, and then I run the save search, and I have two columns called name. But I don't think that's your problem. But if you're actually legitimately getting duplicate columns in your result set and they're not sitting on this there, and you don't have related tables included in your Save Search, then the first thing I would check is the result set and see which columns are included.
Excellent. Raul Kumar asks, what does run unrestricted and my preferred search result mean on the results page?
Very good question. Okay, let me fix this first. So run unrestricted. If you don't have run as unrestricted check, NetSuite will try to run your Save Search, and if it does not come back in a timely manner, and these times are identified and mentioned in the suite answers, if it does not come back in a timely fashion, it's going to time out and your search results are not going to be furnished. So if you want your Save Search to run unrestricted for whatever time it takes, you have to check this box. But once you check this box, you also have to provide how many rows you want to return, because NetSuite also does not want you to return 1 million records and just, sitting there and taking up all the memory. So that's why they want you to take the maximum of records that should be returned if you're running unrestricted Save Search. So if you're familiar with SQL, it just returns the top rows. The max row, it's really creating a max row keyword on the SQL query.
We've also got some questions about where can we find some resources for the functions? Like, is there a list of the functions, or how can we get help with the functions? Like in the highlighting, you showed some formulas and some functions. Do you just know these from experience, or how did you come across these?
Actually, yeah, these functions are defined in Suite Answers. I have an appendix, which I'm going to include in today's session as well. That's going to list all these functions. But yeah, Suite Answers have them. You can go look it up in Suite Answers, and they have lists of all these functions that are available in Safe Searches. But I have also included that in my slide deck for you guys to get access to it.
So it's really not a specific language of the functions. It's just referencing what available functions are there by going to Suite Answers or having the appendix, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent. How about this question? Under the result, when do we need to set the value under summary type, like group or count?
Yeah, so I actually have a safe search for this. So let's defer that question till that point, because I want to make sure I am able to show you guys that, and then we will answer that question then.
All right. I'm going to say last question on this topic right now. When you have a number of filters available and selected on a saved search, is there a quick way to clear all filters to get back to your default view?
Yeah, so
Opposed to clearing one at a time, let's say.
If you're talking the available filters on the safe search, you can do remove all, and that will remove all your filters.
Excellent.
Okay. So.
All right, we're going to let you get back into it.
Okay, let's continue.
Yes.
So we can save and run the search. Fairly straightforward. Once you run the search, you can always edit the search and it'll bring you back. And that's what I've been doing, when I'm showing you guys the results. So save and run, I can save it. When it's running, I can come back, edit the search, come back to my safe search builder. Save and run also has a couple of options. So you can save as, save an email. I'm going to talk about email in a second, but these options are available, so you can make a copy of the save search and modify it under a different name. You can also change the ID. Okay, so that option is available too. So let's modify our save search. Let's say we want to include US states and Canada. So the manager now wants to see customers that are in US states or their country is Canada. Sorry, US Western region and the country is Canada. So now by default, when you create a safe search, if you have more than one criteria, it uses AND logic. So what am I talking about there? So let me come back to my safe search. So under criteria, if I come here and for country, if I include let's see if I can include Canada. So if I do this, by default, this is going to do an AND. So it's going to say, if the address state is one of these states and countries Canada, then to return the results. Of course, this is going to result in no results being created. So we have to use an OR. So how do we use an OR? For that, we have to use expressions. So click on use expressions. Now in this case, I can come here now and I can say, instead of and, I want to use an OR. And click OK. And now if I run, save and run, this should include Canada as well. Hopefully I have some, hold on. I am going to include country in here. code. Let's put that into. So US, let's see if you have any Canadian. We have one. So you can see the Canadian customer shows up at the top, and then you have the US ones. Okay, so that's what the criteria is doing. We could do, sorry, I don't want to do that. So I can go and use OR within my criteria. In this case, I'm looking up Western region as well as customers that are in Canada. And that's where OR can be handy. Or that's the only way I can do this, by the way. So now, if you have more complex criteria or expression, I can use parentheses, and I can do multiple ands and then or it with something else. Like in this case, if I want to restrict, let's say I want to restrict my zip code. So let me show you guys how that's done. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to say if zip starts with, let's say 90. Okay. And this one, I want to bring up actually. So starts with 90, set, no parentheses there, no or. By default, it's and, right? So click OK. Parentheses here, then or, and then down here, country. Canada, set, and that's it. So in this case, what I'm doing is address is in Western region, and zip code starts with 90, or the country's Canada. Let's save and run this. So now it only returns me 39 records. My Canadian customer is also included, and all the US customers that have 90 as the beginning of their zip code. Okay. So that's how we can set up expressions. We can create ands and ors and nots and set up different criterias using those expressions. Okay. Now let's talk about exporting options, printing options, obviously. So I can
Hussain,
print this.
Real quick before we jump into that, I'm seeing a lot of questions in the Q&A about adding a date range to a search.
Date range to a search. Sure. So we can add a date range. I'm going to take out this. So let's say date created, date when the customer is created. And let's say I'm interested in customers, and you can have relative dates as well as a date range. So if you want to say customers that were created in this quarter, or let's say this year, okay, you could just, and then once you click that, NetSuite gives you the relative options that you can use. So last year, next year, this year. So there are a lot of options available. I'm just going to pick this year, and automatically fills in the date. Now, another thing, keep in mind, it's not hard coding your date. So whenever you run the save search, if you run it next year, it's automatically will adjust for next year. Okay, that's why it's set to within this year. Let me run this. I don't think I have any customers this year. I do. Okay. It's then corrected. So that's relative dates. You can set the date range to. You can also define specific date ranges. So you can come here and you can modify that. And if you do that, then this changes to custom. And this is hard coded now. If you set it to this, then the date range is always going to remain this. It's not going to be relative. Okay. So be conscious of that change. So if I run this, now it's going to include my results, my customers from 2019 as well as 2020. Does that answer the question?
Okay. I apologize. I was muted. I think that hit on all of the date range questions. I think everybody should have clarity around that. At this point, I think we're just going to hold all the questions to the Q&A at the end. So why don't we press forward with the presentation, and the 10 questions that we have on the Q&A we're going to get to towards the end of our session. And if you will bear with us, then we will bear with you, and we may go a little over time on this one today, folks. So stick with us. Stay tuned.
Okay. Wonderful. So you can export this to Excel. You can export to CSV. You can also export to a PDF. So those export options are there. And this is what the PDF looks like. I think I also downloaded the Excel. And you can also email, right? So you can email this directly from NetSuite to a recipient list. And, that goes out of the NetSuite system. It's not going to go through your Outlook. It gets sent out from NetSuite. Now, in regards to email, you can set the email options directly on the Save Search as well. Okay, and it has a nice feature called Send Email Alerts when the records are created or updated. Okay, so you can set that directly on the Save Search. So if I come here, I have these two options: send email alerts when records are created or updated, send email according to schedule. So which means that it's going to run the Save Search on schedule and return the results and send the results. Okay. If you send email alerts when records are created or updated, which record is it talking about? It's talking about the Save Search record type that you selected in the beginning. So in this case, the customer. Okay, so it's going to send an alert out when the customer is created or updated. And then here you can set up the recipients. You can also have another search to create a recipients from results. Updated fields that you want to trigger the Save Search on. Of course, customer, transaction type, customer type, vendor type, item types. These have tons of fields. So you don't want to get notified on every single field change. So you can specify which field you want to get notified on, and that's why this option is there. And then you can customize the email get sent out as well, and you can also define the schedule. Okay. Because of the time limit, I'm not going to go into each of these details, but maybe we can cover those in the part 2 if you guys are interested. But just keep in mind that these options are available. Okay, so you can, like I said, send emails out on schedule. So what's the difference in how are the email alerts compared to scheduled emails? So here I have a comparison chart. Again, you guys would be getting this in the slide deck. So, just a brief overview on when to use alerts versus when to use scheduled emails for these Save Searches. Okay. So let's come to our last Save Search, which is a little bit, I have included formulas and grouping in here. So a little bit more technical than the one we did before, but it's something that has come up actually multiple times. So that's why it's the Save Search I have included for this masterclass. So let's say you have a sales manager, and sales manager wants a list of sales rep with respective commission earned, meaning including the commission that they have earned. And the commission he wants to calculate is 2% of the gross profit for all sales reps. So how do we do this? So again, you can create a new search for the record type. The search record type, you have to pick transaction as a record type. Okay. And then select the different criterias for your safe search. Now let's go to NetSuite and I'll show you what that looks like. So let me close this. Let me come to this. Edit the search. So in here, first of all, the criteria side, I'm only interested in transactions that are of type item fulfillment. And where posting is true and applied to transaction document number is not empty. Applied to transaction in this case for item fulfillment is my sales order. And the date is within this fiscal quarter. Actually, I think I'm going to change that. Let's say the date is within this year. Let's give it the rolling year. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, on the results. This is where I have summary types and some formulas included. So I have my sales order number. So I have, again, the applied to transaction document number. I have my custom label set to sales order number. The document number on the transaction is the actual fulfillment number, right? Then I have a date, name. Name is the name of the customer. Item. And then the sales rep. So I want to group by sales rep. All the transactions that belonging to a specific sales rep, I want to group them together. And the sales rep is coming from the sales order. That's why you see the applied to transaction, sales rep on that transaction. And again, it's a related field, right? So on the item fulfillment, you only have certain fields available. Then you go to the related list or related entity of sales order, and then you pick your sales rep from there. The amount also comes from the sales rep, sales order. And then you have your cost of goods sold, and then a couple of formulas. So first formula is calculating the profit, which is the applied to transaction amount minus the COGS amount. And then an average, which is I'm using a summary type, in this case, a summary type function average of the percentage of each of those transactions and then taking an overall average of that, okay? The way I'm taking the percentage is my profit divided by the applied to transaction amount. And so that gives me the percentage and I take an average of that. And then the commission is basically the profit times 2%, and that gives me my sales commission. So if I run this, save and run. So you can see a couple of things. First of all, my average profit percentage is showing up here. My sales reps are showing up here, but there are no other columns. What happened to my other columns? This is a summary detail view combo, meaning you're seeing the summary results. To view the detailed results, you actually have to click on the sales rep, and that would bring you to the details. And here are the details. So my sales order, my fulfillment, my customer, item, sales rep, amount, COGS amount, profit, and the profit percentage, and also the commission. Okay. And I can always come back and return to summary. Now, you would say that, well, the sales commission is showing me commission on per transaction basis, but what about the commission at the sales rep level? So for that, I can come here and edit the search and come to results and include a summary type function. In this case, taking a sum of all the commissions across all the transactions for that sales rep. And let me run this again. You guys can see the sales commission showing up on the summary. And there's my sales commission.
All right, Hussain, we're coming to the top of the hour, so I think I'm going to have to pause you here. We're going to get into a Q&A session, but because some people might have conflicts and need to go on to another meeting, a couple of things we want to do right now. Number one, I'm going to launch our closing poll at this time. Remember, CPAs, if you need to get that last poll in, now's the time to do it. Number two, I'm going to just do a quick commercial here for our upcoming webinar. So we sincerely hope that you enjoyed and found value in today's presentation, and we invite you to participate in our next masterclass on Tuesday, June 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. Hussain is back for a deep dive into NetSuite workflows. And at the end of this webinar, we're directing all of today's attendees to the registration page for this masterclass. So act now, avoid that extra email communication in your inbox. If you're registered today, we won't bother you again until we send you a reminder the day of. And we'll also have a calendar link in there so you can put it right in your calendar. We're also sponsoring and hosting a bi-coastal gathering of NetSuite users by bringing together the SoCal, NorCal, and New York NetSuite user groups for a virtual summit on Wednesday, May 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. This extended webinar will feature a variety of sessions, including a preview of NetSuite's 2020.1 release, an in-depth examination of the new bank feeds functionality and improvements to the banking features, and the ever-popular NetSuite tips and tricks sessions. If you'd like to register for this event, you can go over to your local new NetSuite user group page, either nynug.org, sfbaynug.org, or lanug.org, and I believe we're going to put those links in the chat for you as well. That's our commercial. We are now at 3 o'clock. If you want to stick with us for the Q&A session, we're going to continue broadcasting live, and we're going to jump into those last couple of slides. For those who are leaving us and have to jump off the call for your next appointment, I thank you sincerely for your participation today, and we look forward to seeing you at events in the future. And just so everybody has it, we're going to throw our contact information up in case you need to get in touch with us. And then we're going to go back to our Q&A and open up the floor once again. And here we go. So Hussain, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I know you had like 1 or 2 more slides in there. Sorry we had to rush it. I do know that we're going to do a part 2 of saved searches after we do our workflows masterclass next month, right? Hussain, why don't you describe a little bit about, what the topics are going to be for that next Save Searches Part 2, which I believe we're going to get to in July, correct?
Sure. So for Save Searches Part 2, we are looking at more advanced topics. And also, before I talk about some of these advanced topics, if there's any specific questions you want to be addressed within the Save Search Part 2 session, let us know. And, if time is enough, we will include that. So for the advanced topics, we would be looking at long-running safe searches, complex formulas for results, criteria, and highlighting. We are going to also look at how to handle multiple joins. Another topic that requires, good discussion, because there are multiple ways to do it. It's not currently supported within Safe Search, you can only do one level joins, but if you want to do multi-level joins, you know, there's some other ways to handle that. And lastly, if the time permits, we will also touch upon some of performance boosting options for Safe Searches.
Excellent. All right, Hussain, if you open up your Q&A panel, you're going to see we've got a lot of questions still up on the board there, and I'm wondering if you could just kind of take a look at those and tackle some of them.
Sure. Okay. So if all these, I'm looking at 16 open questions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so let me start from the top, see if I can go through some of these at least. Could you do a Safe Search on invoices that show the ARM start and end dates along with sales order and billing status? So with ARM, I'm assuming you guys are, Jen, you were thinking about advanced revenue management. Now with ARM, there are some custom entities that gets created within NetSuite that's keeping track of revenue and deferred revenue and revenue plans and revenues, you know, that gets applied. So we have to make sure the right entities are being joined to get you the results you want. Now we can look at the specific. I think the easiest way would be if you have an Excel outline of what you like to see on the Safe Search, and you want to share with us, then we can look at that and let you know if that's something available right outside, out of the box within NetSuite, or would need to be customized. Okay. Number 2 from Natalie. Is there a way to identify the field name from an existing display? In other software, I could hit F1 or F5 and it would tell me the dictionary name of that field so I could find it easily and add it to another report. So it's an interesting question. Now, you cannot do F1 or F5, but there are a couple of options available. First of all, you can click on the field itself. If you have field ID option enabled on your user preferences, you can see the field ID. But that's an internal ID on the field, and you can do that on the forms. It's not going to help you as much on the Safe Searches. There's also a record schema available from NetSuite, and it's publicly available. So you can look in the schema and see which fields are available and what you want to add to your Safe Search. The drop down is your best, the only way you can add the fields. So that's where you're gonna, you have to find the right field to add it to your Safe Search. Okay, now the third question, from my experience, I have a hard time selecting the correct field name for the actual field I want to include in the Safe Search. On the transaction form, it has a name X, but actually it's called Y in the field name list. For Safe Search, how do I find the exact name? So again, a little bit of trial and error. Some, we get to find names by experience as well, just, how much time you have spent working with the Safe Searches. But a couple of things that have helped me over the years is, again, the record schema to see what fields are available, and then adding multiple fields to the Safe Search result set so I can see what values are being returned. And then I can find which is the right field I would like to add to my Safe Search. Okay. Okay, another question. I'm trying to do a sales order report by line item. Main line is false. Yeah, so mainline, I had a slide on mainline. I did not get to talk about it. So mainline is where you get to select if you want to include the header level or the line item level details. So if mainline is false, it includes the line items only. So sales order report by line item, but the line item appears multiple times if there are multiple user notes or on the sales order. Do you know of a way around this? in order to grouping all the columns. So if you include the notes in the result set, yes, it is going to, because it's taking a join, it is going to include multiple lines on the result set because the notes are repeated, right? If you have to use notes in your result set, then it's basically a Cartesian product. It's if there are 3 notes and 3 line items, it's going to give you 9 results in your result set. So depending on what you want, the best option would be not to include notes in your line item results. How can I set criteria zip equals to 95014 or 9401041 in one line instead of 2 lines with or? Okay, that's a good one. I'm trying to see if there's a like option, like a wildcard search, but wildcard is not going to work in this case. Can you? No, I don't think this would be possible. Okay, so you would have to use in 2 lines or use expressions to have multiple zip code matches that are then ANDed or ORed with another set of expressions. Okay.
Great. And Hussain, just as a note to everybody that's still with us, and we have a lot of attendees still with us, so thank you guys for hanging out for this Q&A session. I think we're going to send out the questions and some of these answers as with the follow-up emails so that you can see what some of your peers have been asking. You don't get to see these Q&A questions on screen, so we want to make sure you have those in front of you. But let's press forward. And at this time, I'll also say we're going to close the Q&A. We're going to answer as many questions as we can with the time that we have left, but we have 11 questions still open. We're going to close any additional Q&A. You can come to our workflow session. You can come to our user group session. Normally, if you live on the East Coast or you live on the West Coast and we have these as live events, you can come meet Hussain and he'll answer your questions in person, or you can always get in touch with us at BSP for more information. So let's answer a couple more before we close it out today, Hussain.
Okay. So clarifying previous question, viewing saved search results, is there a way to quickly clear filters you choose to get back to display all results? No, not on the viewing. I have to look into it, see if there's a way, maybe adding some sort of a button, but I don't think that's possible. So let me get back to you guys on that. Is there any list with the detailed description for each field? Yes, that's the schema browser, which has a detailed description for each field and it's publicly available. So just search NetSuite record schema browser and it comes up on Google. Okay, how about filter? How about a filter for date range? I think we already talked about that. So you can add a filter for date range. When you add a filter for date range, the same options become available to you as we did on the criteria. So that's already there. Okay, now coming to Miroslav. Can we add data range to search results page in the filters region of the results? Yes, you can. So you have to pick a date field in the filters, add it to the filter, and it'll show up as a date range, and you can change it there. Okay. Good. From John, can you change the Excel export to XLSX instead of old XLS? That's actually an answer request for NetSuite. I'm not sure why they haven't changed it, but that's something that's part of the built-in functionality, and we cannot change it as far as search results are concerned. Okay. How can I export out a list of all saved searches with the criteria used in saved search? Also on the scheduled search, how can I export a list of all scheduled searches? who they go to and their schedule. Okay, so there is a save search for save search. So you can actually create a save search that lists all the save search, and there are criteria options available to you that you can use to filter out save searches that are scheduled, save searches that are going to a specific recipient, save searches that are being created by a particular employee. You can do all that through the save search for save searches. Sorry, it's a double whammy, but yeah, there is a list view for a save search that you can use to create.
That one's too meta for me, Hussein. There's a save search for save searches. That's just now
Right.
we're getting into.
Okay. How can I make an alert when product gets taken off of auto hold to available? Interesting. So you can actually create a save search alert through if you guys, Mario, if you saw the email alert options, and you can pick the hold field and just have an alert on whenever that hold field gets updated. And the transactions would be whatever transaction type you're interested in. Okay, is there a limited number of row of the results? That's going to be when you have unrestricted results and you have your max results set to whatever limited number of rows you want. Otherwise, there's no limited number. If it's all complete within the given time, it's, it'll return all the results for you. How should we send requests?
I think this was in reference to our save search to, how can they get in touch with us to send those requests? So I don't think we want to broadcast your email address out loud, but you guys can always give us a call, hit us up on our website. Our website has a chat function. If we're not there to, field your inquiry immediately, just leave an email address. We'll get back to you. Or you can always email info@bspny.com and we will route that to the proper person. So if you have any requests about content for saved searches too, or if you have any ideas about the type of content that you would like to see Business Solution Partners present to you in our webinar masterclass series, please get in touch with us. Let us know.
Okay, so the last question.
We made it. We made it to the last question.
So this format with curly bracket, that's specifically for the formula. If you want to see the same field on the results, it's actually going to be under applied to transaction related entity, and then you have to drill down to the amount field on that related entity through that pop-up window, and that's how you add it to the results.
All right, excellent. Hussein, we still have, you know what?
Can we grab save searches? No, that you cannot do, but you can do that in analytic workbooks.
Somebody snuck in that last question there. We still have like 70 attendees with us today. I just wanted to thank everybody who joined us for this very important topic. We really hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found value. And we hope you join us next time. So when you exit out today, you're going to have the opportunity to register immediately for our next masterclass on workflows. And we will have saved searches too coming up in July. Don't forget our webinar on the East Coast, West Coast User Group Summit. And, thank you again all for your participation today. And we will see you next time. From all of us here at Business Solution Partners, we appreciate your time today and look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Thank you all.